All right. Good afternoon or good day, everyone. My name is Dr. Carl Hanson. I am an adult infectious disease specialist at UPPGH and at the Medical City. And I've been asked by Dr. Kate Leritania to give a talk on immune reconstitution inflammatory syndrome. First of all, I'd like to apologize for not being able to make it to the in-person session of Prime Masterclass. I really was looking forward to meeting all of you, but I got sick. No? So I'm better now, and I have been able to complete my lecture. And I promised Dr. Kate that I will provide her a video to make up for the time that I was supposed to give you this talk. So let's proceed. Um, let's start by defining immune reconstitution. This is not IRIS yet. This is just immune reconstitution. No? Immune reconstitution is the process of reversing the damage that HIV causes on the body's immune system. So by this time, I'm sure that you know that HIV attacks our immune system, specifically our CD4 positive cells. And when you lose CD4 positive cells, um, then you run into problems. No? You can get all sorts of infection. So the immune system of the body gets sick once you have HIV. And immune reconstitution is the process of reversing that such that it refers to improving the body's immune function and repairing the damage done by HIV. So all people with HIV, all people living with HIV who start taking antiretroviral therapy will have some form of immune reconstitution. And usually, this is manifested by an increase in the CD4 count. Okay, so at this time, only antiretroviral therapy can trigger immune reconstitution or recovery from HIV infection. Okay, now ano naman yung immune reconstitution inflammatory syndrome? This is also known as immune restoration disease, or yung immune reconstitution inflammatory syndrome is also known as IRIS, no, IRIS. IRIS is an inflammatory response triggered after ART initiation, no? After ART initiation in the following conditions. So if your patient has never had ART in the past, or if they are treatment naive, or if they were started on ART before, discontinued it for some reason, no? And then you restart or reinitiate ART, then your patient may also have IRIS. Or if in a patient who was on a failing regimen, for example, so naka-ART na siya, pero the viral load isn't getting suppressed, you do a genotype and resistant pala, no? So you give an effective regimen based on the genotype. So those patients, even if they're already on previous ART and then now they're on an effective regimen, they can develop IRIS. Now, the usual conditions surrounding IRIS is it usually occurs within the first 4 to 8 weeks after ART initiation. Of course, there are exceptions to the rule, but in general, you see it in the first 4 to 8 weeks. No? The usual conditions are in patients with CD4 less than 50 cells per cubic millimeter and a viral load of more than 100,000 copies. Hindi pa very widespread yung paggawa ng viral load at baseline. I know that they do it in PGH and Takip already because there's a study, I think, no, there's funding. But we generally do not request for a baseline viral load for our patients because it's quite expensive. But if your patient is fortunate enough to have a baseline viral load, a viral load of 100,000, more than 100,000 before starting ART is actually a risk factor for IRIS. No? And IRIS is usually accompanied by an increase in CD4 count and or a rapid decrease in HIV viral load. No? So pag masyadong maganda yung effect ng ART, then IRIS can be triggered. There are two types of iris. Now, the first one is paradoxical iris. And this is paradoxical means so ang paradoxical iris means worsening of previously diagnosed disease after ART is initiated. So, pag alam mo na merong OI, may opportunistic infection yung patient, you start the patient on ART, and then 4 to 8 weeks later, the symptoms of that OI seems to be worsening. No, then that's what's called paradoxical iris. And this is significant. The rate or the incidence rate of paradoxical iris is significantly higher among those with CD4 counts of less than 50 cells per cubic millimeter. No? The references that I'm using are indicated in the bottom of the slide, so you can look at them yourself. The second type of iris is unmasking iris. This is the appearance of symptoms or the appearance of iris in patients with previously undiagnosed opportunistic infections after ART is initiated. So risk factors include African origin, higher baseline viral load, and strong response to ART. Now, unmasking, so as the word implies, you didn't know that the OI was there before. You start the ART, and then suddenly he or she, the patient, develops symptoms of an OI, no? And yun pala, nag-immune reconstitution na siya, and the symptoms of these OIs have started to become manifested in the patient. So yun yung unmasking iris. What about iris in HIV/AIDS? The data has shown that that iris is highest among those with CMV retinitis among patients with AIDS-defining illness. And this graph here that we are showing you shows that HIV retinitis, the prevalence rate or the incidence, I think this is about 38% for CMV retinitis. Second only ang cryptococcal meningitis at around 20%. No, and then down the line. I do not think we have very good Philippine data, but this is international or US data. No? All right. So Doc Kate has asked for me to sort of discuss with you the types of iris using cases. No? So we're going to present to you very brief cases, and then we'll use that as a takeoff point for a brief discussion of iris. And this is really to just show you the clinical manifestations. I have some separate slides on how to manage iris later on, okay? So some clinical vignettes. Now, case one, we have I'm sure these cases are common to you by now. This is a master class, no? So I'm assuming na these cases that we'll talk about will be familiar to you, except for the part na iris. Now, so we have a 35-year-old gentleman coming in for palmar rash. Okay, so 2 months prior with a history of painless genital ulcer, which eventually resolved, and then hindi niya yun pinatingin. So ngayon meron siyang bilateral palmar rash. So this is a very common story, no? And sometimes our patients don't even tell us or don't even remember their primary syphilis or their genital ulcer, no? Screening for syphilis is positive. And then he was tested for HIV at the same time, no? In the same clinic, and he tested positive as well. That was the first time ever that he was tested positive for HIV. And his CD4 was found to be 225. He was started on benzathine penicillin, and then 2 hours after injection of benzathine penicillin for the secondary syphilis, no, he started having fever, chills, flushing, and exacerbation of skin lesions. Okay, so HIV positive, recent diagnosis, was also found to have syphilis. He was only treated for the syphilis first, no, for secondary syphilis. And then 2 hours after treatment, he started having fever, chills, flushing, and exacerbation of these skin lesions. No? So the question is this iris? I'm going to give you 5 seconds to think about it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so is this iris? This is not. No, this is actually Jarisch-Herxheimer syndrome. No, this is a known phenomenon after administration of penicillin in patients with syphilis. And the key here is that this is not iris, mainly because it's too soon. So it was too quick after the treatment. But then the patient had not been started on antiretroviral therapy. Okay, so I'm using this case to sort of illustrate na iris should be considered in someone who has already been started on antiretroviral therapy. Okay, so for the first case, that's not iris. Okay, so I hope nakuha nyo yun. All right, let's go to case 2. Case 2 is a 45-year-old gentleman, newly diagnosed case of HIV with a baseline CD4 count of 39 and a prior history of childhood TB, pulmonary TB. He came in with progressive shortness of breath after 2 weeks of antiretroviral therapy. So, HIV patient, CD439, na-start na ng ART 2 weeks prior. Okay, naka-antiretroviral therapy. HRCT was done, and ang nakita doon, centrilobular nodules and tree in bud appearance. And the MTB gene expert is positive for Mycobacterium tuberculosis, and the rifampicin resistance test was negative, not detected. So you have a patient with HIV, very low CD4 count, had a history of childhood TB, but was started immediately on ART. Now presents with shortness of breath. Okay, so the question is this iris? I'll give you 5 seconds to think about your answer. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Is this iris? Yes, this is TB-associated iris. And if you notice, the ART was started, the patient was never diagnosed with pulmonary TB, diba? Before starting the ART. So this is an example of unmasking iris. Okay, so TB-associated iris may have worsening of pulmonary symptoms, X-ray findings that suggest worsening of TB disease. You can have enlarging lymph nodes causing airway obstruction or meningeal symptoms. Symptoms can be very severe, actually, and in patients with tuberculomas, meaning mass-like TB infections, or pericardial effusions, these can be very life-threatening, Kasi it can exert mass effect on wherever they are. So if you have a pericardial effusion that's worsening, pwede mag-cardiac tamponade patient. TB-associated iris may occur in patients who also has undiagnosed multi-drug resistant TB. For example, you're treating already for TB. You started the patient on antiretroviral therapy. Yun pala, on culture, drug-resistant, or on gene expert, drug-resistant TB yung nasa patient. So then you can get a worsening of symptoms. So how could we have improved the care for this case number 2, this 45-year-old man, May history kasi siya of TB treatment before, So I think for this case, there should have been an effort to screen for pulmonary tuberculosis before starting antiretroviral therapy. Okay. Now, let's go to case 3. Case 3 is about a 37-year-old gentleman who, again, is diagnosed case of HIV, baseline CD4 count of 47, coming in for reported floaters on the right eye, and otherwise had no complaints. So comes in with symptoms of some eye problem. So you refer the patient to ophthalmology. They do a fundoscopy. They diagnose with CMV retinitis. So you start the patient on valganciclovir. So you follow the rules. Sabi natin, after diagnosing an opportunistic infection, usually the patient needs to be started within 2 weeks. So you start the patient on antiretroviral therapy 2 weeks after starting treatment for CMV retinitis, valganciclovir. So, and then when you started treatment for ART, initially there were no problems. However, 6 weeks after you started the ART, the patient develops blurring of vision and floaters on the right eye. Okay, so mukhang nag-worsen yung kanyang vision. yung symptoms of the CMV retinitis that you already had identified earlier. No? So the question is this iris? And the answer is yes. Sorry, hindi ko na kayo pinag-antay. Hindi na ako naka-antay. So the answer is yes. This is CMV-associated iris. And because we had already identified CMV retinitis earlier, and we were already treating the CMV retinitis before we started the ART, this is an example of a paradoxical iris. Okay? So CMV-associated retinitis can present as well retinitis in the previous site of the lesion. You can also present with vitritis or uveitis. These are medyo technical terms, no? So for those who are not ophthalmologists or not very familiar, this really is just some structures at the back of the eye. There's variable timing, but the median time is about 20 weeks after ART initiation. Retinitis is usually at the site of the previous CMV lesions. Now, uveitis and vitritis are the presence of inflammatory cells in the eye as a result of iris and may help to distinguish iris from active CMV retinitis. So, what this means is, so yung eye kasi natin, so it's a ball, no? And yung retinitis is like the back wall of that eyeball. And when you have CMV retinitis, you usually just have symptoms of inflammation on the back wall. Usually, walang mga white cells that are floating in the vitreous. No? Uveitis and vitritis are presence of inflammatory cells, and within the vitreous, usually not found in CMV retinitis. So this can actually help you to distinguish between CMV iris versus just a plain CMV retinitis. No? And the problem with CMV iris, which, as we pointed out earlier, is the most common cause of iris, is it can cause rapid and permanent vision loss. So you need to be able to pick this up very early and then refer your patient to a specialist ASAP, because the treatment might require injection of steroid in the eye. Okay. Case 4, this is the last case. You have a 26-year-old gentleman, a diagnosed case of HIV 2 years ago with a baseline CD4 count of 47, coming in for visual disturbances and left-sided headache. He was previously started on ART 2 years prior during the at the time of diagnosis, but he was non-compliant. No? Pero recently, he consulted 3 weeks ago and was restarted on ART during consult. So 2 years siya na not very good with taking his medications, pero he has started taking it regularly 3 weeks prior. No? And then he comes into you for visual disturbances. He comes in to see you for visual disturbances on the left-sided head. So you admit him, and then you do an MRI, no significant findings. You do a lumbar tap, and the India ink is positive for the image you see on the right. So by now, this is an HIV prime masterclass. So I'm guessing that by now you know your opportunistic infections, and you also know that this is cryptococcal meningitis. Okay, so this patient comes in with cryptococcal meningitis, and the question is this iris? 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the answer is yes. This is cryptococcal meningitis associated iris. And this is actually unmasking iris din, no? Unmasking iris, because the patient had not been, the cryptococcal meningitis had not been identified prior to him taking his medications regularly. Okay? So pwedeng nag-develop ng resistance, no? Tapos ngayon na may advanced HIV siya ulit, pwede siya ng cryptococcal meningitis. The 3 weeks of effective or the regular intake of antiretroviral therapy for 3 weeks could have already suppressed the virus, or it could have not, no? Parang partial suppression. But I think that this is a good example of cryptococcal meningitis associated iris. And it usually presents as worsening of meningitis symptoms if you had caught it earlier. Now, it also may present with rapid hearing and or vision loss, ataxia, and elevated intracranial pressure. And as you probably know already, for cryptococcal meningitis, the problem talaga that will kill patients is the elevated intracranial pressure. So there has to be an effort to rapidly bring down or keep the intracranial pressure at normal levels while you are on treatment for cryptococcal meningitis. There are other presentations of iris actually. Most of the opportunistic infections can present as some form of iris. For example, Mycobacterium avium complex or MAC can present as pulmonary disease or systemic inflammation that is indistinguishable from active MAC. There are also atypical presentations such as lymph node enlargement or endobronchial mass lesion. Sometimes osteomyelitis can actually appear as an atypical late manifestation, but I have not encountered something like this. No, um, they may not be bacteremic and may have no known history of a MAC diagnosis. I can tell you, patients with MAC are very difficult to treat. No? So you have to have a high index of suspicion. Remember, ang MAC usually happens in patients with CD4s below or less than 50. No? Hepatitis B or C can present as iris as well. Can present with transient elevations in transaminases and this may occur after initiation of ART. And it can be difficult to distinguish from drug-induced hepatitis. I remember your medications, the ART or TB medications, can sometimes cause drug-induced liver injury. No? So it's important for you to get the baseline Hep B, Hep C as well in your patients. Hepatic flares are usually mild and self-limited, but it can result in decompensation in someone with pre-existing cirrhosis. Cerebral toxoplasmosis is another possible infection that can cause iris. It may present as cerebral abscesses, known as toxoplasmosis encephalitis, or sometimes diffuse encephalitis, or even eye problems, chorioretinitis. Progressive multifocal leukoencephalopathy, or PML, are lesions that may be unmasked or worsen and could appear as new or worsening focal neurologic deficits or lesions on MRI after starting antiretroviral therapy. Kaposi sarcoma is also one of those that can present as iris. These are cutaneous lesions as the most common presentation. I have seen some KS na nasa lips, ganyan, and in other parts of the body, oral, gastric, lung, genital, or conjunctival lesions. And again, these can worsen. The lesions can worsen after starting antiretroviral therapy. And then you have the viral causes. Now, HSV and varicella zoster, HSV and VZV can reactivate after initiation of ART, even in patients without previously diagnosed disease. Presentations are usually similar to non-iris disease. However, iris may worsen a patient. All right, so how do we manage now iris? No, then you need to classify now your patient between mild and severe. Because for mild, it's usually just reassuring patients that their symptoms are an indication of their improving immune status rather than a progression of HIV disease. And really with supportive care, you just need to manage the symptoms. So adjunct medications lang yan that can alleviate inflammation. So you can try NSAIDs or non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, ibuprofen or mefenamic acid, to address the inflammation or the fever. If there's an abscess, you can drain it. If there are lymph nodes that are very inflamed that need to be excised, then go ahead and excise them if talagang kailangan. And for respiratory symptoms, you can give inhaled steroids for bronchospasm or cough associated with a mild pulmonary inflammation. That's for mild iris. For severe iris, that's a different conversation altogether. Severe cases include decline in pulmonary capacity, sometimes neurologic complications, or vision loss, depending on the opportunistic infection that you're dealing with. So patients can be given prednisone at 1 to 2 milligrams per kilo or the equivalent for 1 to 2 weeks, followed by a tapering period that is individualized. So I think you need to consult a specialist for this. No, and even except in the most severe cases, the ART should be continued throughout the treatment of iris. ART should never be interrupted when treating iris. Kasi kaya nga siya lumalala dahil gumaganda ng immune system, and if you withdraw the ART, then you mess things up. The very exceptional cases where you think about discontinuing ART should be in life-threatening cases in which corticosteroids did not result in improvement. Usually, these are in CNS-associated iris, so cryptococcal meningitis, etc. Okay. So what are the local guidelines on ART initiation? ART should be initiated within the same day upon recognition of HIV infection whenever possible, regardless of clinical immunologic status. So I'm sure that when you were taught when to start ART, Doc Kate and her team and your other lecturers talk to you about starting ART as soon as possible. In fact, we'll talk later on about same-day ART initiation. So our guidelines say na ART should be initiated within the same day upon recognizing an HIV infection. Okay, there's no recommendation on any laboratory requirement prior to initiation. So the question is, how do we balance that with, knowing now that iris can happen if you start a patient on ART, pero meron pala siyang opportunistic infection. So how do we balance that question? No? This is the topic I was talking about, same day ART antiretroviral therapy. This has been proven to be efficient with increased antiretroviral therapy uptake kasi captured audience na sila doon sa clinic, no? They're already there, they just got tested. You convince them to get started on antiretroviral therapy. Magic, no? Na start na sila agad. And you get faster virologic suppression, and you get higher rates of retention in care. Initiating ART, regardless of CD4 count, is considered to be cost-effective, equitable, acceptable, and feasible. And ART should only be delayed when there's meningitis or some other CNS infection is suspected. So those are the principles of SDART, no? Of same-day antiretroviral therapy initiation. Clients or patients should undergo history and clinical examination to evaluate for opportunistic infections, such as TB meningitis and cryptococcal meningitis, before ART initiation is offered. Although no longer a requirement for ART initiation, you can check baseline CD4 because remember we talked about yung risk for iris has a component where it's higher for patients with lower CD4 count, less than 50. No, so it's best to do a baseline CD4 count on the same day. If you're in a government treatment hub, those are all free, I think. No, and it should be performed. CD4 count testing should be performed to determine whether the patient has advanced HIV, because that can impact on whether you can start antiretroviral therapy or not already. Essentially, you want to look for clinical evidence or history and physical examination findings of an opportunistic infection. And if mukhang may opportunistic infection, then maybe do not start ART yet. However, if the patient is fine, ART should not be delayed while waiting for the CD4 test results. Okay. So what about initiation of ART for those with risk for iris? So ano sabi natin, risk for iris, less than CD4 count, high viral load, 100,000. No? Clinicians should recommend that patients initiate ART within 2 weeks of beginning treatment for active OIs. So if your patient, say, presents with PCP, you can treat the PCP and then instruct them that within 2 weeks, you can start antiretroviral therapy. For patients with CD4 counts below 100 or known concomitant ARTs, for known concomitant opportunistic infections who are initiating ART, we need to be very careful about the signs and symptoms of iris, and we should educate our patients about the risk of developing iris. So, for example, patient with tuberculosis, so anti-TB medications na siya, you give him the antiretroviral medicine, you need to tell him that that he should watch out for symptoms of shortness of breath, etc., and that he should come to see you or go to the emergency room if he does develop these symptoms, so that he can be managed appropriately. This is a slide from, I think, the Global Fund. This was provided actually to me by Dr. Kate and her team. No, this is really just to show you that medyo hindi pa nagtitake off yung concept of same-day antiretroviral therapy. It's less than 50% of all treatment initiations. And what we want is, over time, more people will be started on antiretroviral therapy. I think these days, we're picking up more and more patients with high CD4 counts who are stable, who got tested because, their friend recently tested positive or whatnot, and they got tested just to check. Parang ganon. So we should be convincing our patients to do SDART if your treatment hub is capable of doing it. So for clinically stable patients, history, physical exam, mukhang wala namang opportunistic infections, you can go ahead and start SDART. So initiation of ART for those with risk for iris. Just some important reminders, no? So, or recommendations. So for TB, for patients with CD4 counts higher than 50, as soon as patients are clinically stable on anti-TB therapy, usually within 2 weeks, dapat pwede na, no? And no later than 12 weeks. So after initiating therapy, dapat makastart na sila ng ART. For patients with CD4 count less than 50, they should be started within 2 weeks after initiating anti-TB therapy. For ART naive, so never had ART before, CD4 cell count of less than 100, and who had been started on anti-TB treatment within the last 30 days, you can think about giving prednisone 40 milligrams daily for 14 days with a tapering, no? If you suspect that the patient might develop iris. I do not personally do this recommendation, but it is included in the recommendations of Brust et al. As published in 2021. Cryptococcal meningitis, you want to delay ART initiation until the patient has had at least 2 weeks of antifungal treatment. There's some debate on whether you need to wait the entire 6 weeks of induction therapy. So the second recommendation is you need to consult an experienced HIV provider to determine optimal timing. Ako personally, as an HIV consultant or ID consultant, I want to wait 6 weeks, no, before start yung for the induction therapy to be completed before I start patients on antiretroviral therapy. I may start earlier if the patient is really very sick and I feel that he or she will benefit from antiretroviral therapy already. For CMV retinitis, clinicians should not initiate ART immediately with known or strongly suspected CMV retinitis. So if your patient comes to the clinic, presents with floaters or blurring of vision, hindi sila for SDART. They shouldn't be given antiretroviral therapy. They should be sent to ophthalmology for an evaluation, okay? Dilated eye exam, etc. And then start them on valganciclovir before they start on antiretroviral therapy. That's my last slide. And then, sorry, this is my last slide. That's my talk, no? So what are some important take-home points? Risk factors for iris include low CD4 count, less than 50 cells at the time of diagnosis, and the high viral load. Patients with low risk for iris, asymptomatic, relatively healthy, relatively high CD4 count, less than 50, no? You may consider or you may start antiretroviral therapy on the same day, okay? And if your patients do develop iris, you continue the antiretroviral therapy through the symptoms of iris, except in the most severe of cases. Okay, so I guess those are 3 take-home points. Well, you need to remember the risk factors. You need to remember that most patients can be started on antiretroviral therapy on the same day. And if my risk for iris, then that, or my risk for an opportunistic infection, for example, my symptoms, short of breath, headache, blurring of vision, that's the time that you hold SDART and then work up for an opportunistic infection. And if your patients do develop iris, continue the ART through the treatment of the iris. All right, that's my talk. Thank you very much for your attention and good luck with the rest of your class.